Hello, everybody. I would just like to start our event with a land acknowledgement. We would like to start this event by acknowledging that the city of Guelph, where the Two Rivers Festival takes place, is situated within the Dish with One Spoon treaty lands between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Here in these river valleys, we have learned that the Atawandran or neutral peoples were also among the original stewards. We'd like to recognize the enduring presence of Aboriginal peoples on this land and the history of the First Nations peoples and neighboring First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. Today, there are a wide number of Indigenous peoples who call this territory home under the Haldeman Tract Treaty with the Mississaugas of the New Credit. We want to express solidarity with the 88 First Nations communities in Ontario currently under drinking water advisories. Hello, everyone. My name's Siobhan Blanco, and I'm the Two Rivers Festival Coordinator, as well as the Take2 Project Manager, and I'll be presenting and facilitating for this event. I'd like to welcome you all to the launch of the Take2 Watershed Cleanup. This event is a part of the 10th annual Two Rivers Festival that celebrates and appreciates the Speed and Aramasa rivers. The theme of our festival this year is the confluence of rivers, peoples, and their stories. Our festival is largely organized and run by volunteers and involves many community organizations. Please support these organizations that are doing good work in our community. Please also support our advertisers and event sponsors, CFRU, Mike Schreiner, and Mickey Shepard, who made this event possible. You can see more info about all of our advertisers on our website. And currently we're close to the end of the Two Rivers Festival, but we do have a couple events left, including our first songwriting competition, which is on Saturday. This festival is a project of the Wellington Water Watchers, and it is our hope that if we celebrate and fall in love with our rivers, we will want to further protect them. Just so you all know, this meeting is being recorded. It will record the active speaker, but if you feel more comfortable, you can turn your camera off. And just know that due to the size of the meeting, everyone has been muted, but we'd still love to hear from you. So please feel free to use the chat box for reactions, comments, and questions. And always remember to keep our event space inclusive, kind, and respectful. And if you wish, you can also edit your Zoom name to include your pronouns. We're just going to start with a little video about Take2. So just to give you some background on what Take2 is before we get started, the Take2 Watershed Cleanup is a new project of the Wellington Water Watchers, and we are supported by Shared Value Solutions. And we're focused on tackling the growing problem of waste in our trails, which has become a growing issue due to the increased use of outdoor spaces during the pandemic. In light of COVID-19, people have been increasingly accessing natural spaces within their watersheds, which has increased the amount of garbage and litter present in these areas, which is negatively impacting our environment. Unfortunately, due to COVID safety reasons, traditionally organized group litter cleanups just aren't possible right now. So Take2 offers a solution to this problem by encouraging individuals to take action to keep our trails and watersheds clean. We're going to hear more today about the inspiration behind Take2, information about how litter has increased in our areas, and how Take2 works to address both the symptoms and the sources of pollution, along the Eramosa and Speed Rivers in the Guelph-Eramosa Township, the city of Guelph, and the city of Cambridge. First, we're going to hear from Jeremy Shute, and Jeremy is the originator of the idea of Take2, and he's going to share some of his stories and inspiration about how Take2 took shape. A little bit about Jeremy. Jeremy is a local cartographer and musician and a partner in the environmental consulting firm Shared Value Solutions. He works with Indigenous communities and nations across Canada in land use planning and natural resource management. Jeremy is an active land and trail user in and around Guelph, and has paddled many of our local waterways. To encourage local stewardship initiatives, Jeremy has developed a map of buried creeks in Guelph that includes waterways and trails. He has presented at the Two Rivers Festival this year and in the past on his family canoe trip, Speed to Sea, that started in Guelph on the Speed River and is heading downstream towards the Atlantic Ocean. Jeremy has planted tens of thousands of trees in the watershed and picks up garbage everywhere he goes. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thanks everybody for coming this afternoon. Really excited to be part of this and have a great team of people working on this project. Nice to see. I see a number of names and people who are attending today, and great to see you. And thanks for coming. So I'll just give a little bit of background about why, kind of where this idea came from for me, and it's really came from sort of being out on the trails and seeing so many people really wanting access to the natural world, really feeling a need to connect to the natural world, and being out in the trails, being on the river. I've seen more people in the last year out in the trails than I have ever before in my life, being in Guelph. And with all the new people and all the people using the trails and waterways, also comes sort of the impacts of people being out there. And so, in addition to all the people, there's more garbage than there ever has been before. Um, and I was out one day walking, and uh, I met some folks, and actually I was on my bike, and I was carrying a bunch of garbage that I picked up, and um, I met some people who were also carrying some like drinking containers that they're drinking from, and I was thinking, oh no, I hope these people aren't going to drop this thing on the trail like I've seen so many other containers. And I was trying to think how to engage people, and so like around this kind of question of waste, and I really didn't feel like I could. Like, I didn't want to say, hey, I'm gonna wag my finger and, hey, don't, make sure you don't drop that stuff on the trail. Like, I wasn't sure how to best to engage in a positive way. And so what I said was, hey, I'm on my bike. Um, I don't have a ability to carry this garbage with me. Do you mind, since you've got your car here, do you mind taking this with you? And they were like, yeah, sure, we'd happy to do that. Yeah, just put it here and we'll take it. And that happened to me sort of several times over my time on this trail. And I really came to the conclusion that people really want to be part of the solution, like that people want to be engaged in something that's positive, that they can do to themselves to assist and help. And it really reminded me of this kind of concept of kind of calling people in instead of calling people out, telling people what you want them to do, requesting that they do the things you want them to do, rather than telling them not to do the things that you don't want them to do. And so that was really kind of the idea behind Take2, is to to find a way to sort of do two things, sort of accomplish two goals. One is to pull the garbage and the waste out of the natural spaces and clean those places up, uh, and at the same time really kind of stem the flow of things getting there in the first place. So to really sort of encourage people to be stewards and to look after the place where they are. And the idea is that as people are taking things out and they're picking things up and they're aware of their surroundings and they're aware of the garbage and they're aware of their own actions, as they're doing those things, they're um, they're they're less likely to become part of the problem in the future. They're less likely to drop something down the road. So that's actually, the longer term goal is really kind of to stem the flow of the garbage and waste that makes it out into those places in the first place. And that's, yeah, that's basically it. And I'll pass it back to you, Sylvan. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, so next I'd like to introduce John Fisher, who is the president of the Guelph Hiking Trail Club. He has held leadership positions in the club since the mid-90s. He moved into downtown Guelph in 2018 and took on the presidency of the club in 2020. The Guelph Hiking Trail Club is a 50-year-old volunteer organization with charitable status. The club maintains and manages a network of primarily hiking trails from Guelph to Limehouse, Guelph to Cambridge, and the first 12 kilometers of the G2G, the Kissing Bridge Trail. They also run an organized guided hike program to introduce people to the local trail system. Primarily a rural trail network, the club has spent the last couple of years focusing more of its efforts on establishing a stronger Guelph presence. John is going to talk about the Hiking Trail Club's pandemic experience.
Thanks, Siobhan. And hi, everybody. And thanks for including us in this initiative. We appreciate that. Our trail network, which is about 75 kilometers long in total, primarily does run all the way along the Speed and the Eramosa rivers. And a lot of it is on private property. So there's a real incentive for us to make sure it's kept clean so that our landowners appreciate the fact that we're there and they don't kick us off because we're not keeping a decent trail. Our biggest problem historically has really been in trailheads, particularly close to cities. So for example, Niska trailhead, Victoria Road Bridge, start of the trailhead there, Acton, Dublin Line area. But what we found is that if we make a real initiative to clean those areas up, it really is like the broken window theory that people are just less likely to dump more stuff there if you clean it up and you keep it clean and you react quickly to it. So that's what we've done. We don't have nearly the same problems that we've had before. Oftentimes we've handled those with work parties. Basically just go in there, bunch of volunteers, and get rid of the garbage. During the pandemic, we have seen trail use go up, as you said, 200 to 300%. People are walking the trails. It's people that are very often it's people that are unfamiliar with trail etiquette, how they need to behave, how they need to respect the private landowners' permissions that they've given us, and so on. So we actually have had some experience where we've had to shut the trails down. Like last March, we actually shut trails down because there was too much traffic and it was causing too much of a landowner problem. And fortunately, we were able to open again soon afterwards, but that was a problem for us. We think this is a really good program. We would like it to succeed. Part of it is, part of what hiking the trails is the trail user's experience. And a trail user's experience is really negated when they're walking by garbage, when they see garbage along the trail, and to give them a reason, I guess, not that we really need one, but a reason, a theory about being part of something, the Take2, I think is a good motivator. And so I'm really encouraged by it. I think it'll be a good thing. I think it'll help the trail system. I have a couple of examples, but I think I probably used my 5 minutes. So I'm okay for questions later on. So, okay.
John, if you want to give one example, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I'm gonna pick on Starkey Hill. Starkey Hill is a trailhead. It's extremely popular. It's always been popular. During the pandemic, it's been fantastically popular. 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, we initiated a program there with GRCA. It was actually inspired by one of our trail leaders who said, geez, people are dumping dog poop here. It would be really nice if they didn't do that. They don't want to take it home in the car. Can't we give them a container or something? So we said, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. So we actually did it at Starkey Hill and Smith property. We put up signs trying to encourage people that this is just for dog poop and it's not for general garbage. And that kind of worked for 5 years, 10 years, 6 years, maybe, not bad. Over this last year, it's been hopeless. People are going out to Starkey, they're using the trail, they're dumping all kinds of household garbage in the containers. Our initial response was the wrong one, which was, let's add another container there so that we can collect more garbage, and then our volunteers, won't have to worry about the bag being opened by vermin and so on. So we did that, and of course, it doesn't work, right? You could put a dumpster out there and it would get filled. So the whole solution to this is the pack it in, pack it out solution. I think it's okay to have dog poop there. It's tough to get people to take dog poop in their car home. So I think that's okay, but it's really an educational thing to say, that's okay, garbage isn't okay, please take it home. I hope that we can transfer some of this Take2 message and get people educated on what we need to do in Starkey and Smith property. Okay.
Thank you so much, John, for all the insight and the stories. It's definitely a lot to keep in mind for when we move forward with this project as well, to encourage people to actually take the waste away with them and dispose of it responsibly and properly. Our next speaker is Dave Beaton, and Dave Beaton is the Program Manager of Forestry and Sustainable Landscapes with the City of Guelph. Over to you, Dave.
Excellent. Thank you. I am to speak to you about some of the initiatives the city has. And as other speakers have already said, the usage in our parks has been incredible. On both our trails and our parks have seen at least 100% increase, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is in the 200 to 300% increase in some of the usage in our areas. So we are having, our natural areas have given an incredible amount to us, so it's fantastic to have an initiative like this where we are enabling people to be giving back and to say, nature's done so much for you, let's do this small action. So much appreciated. This connects in with an initiative that my team has helped coordinate, which is a community cleanup called Cleaning Green. And Cleaning Green is a citywide thing that happens in the spring. Normally it's a one-day event. This past year, with it being the pandemic, it was sort of a month-long cleanup at your own pace kind of cleanup. But we all know that garbage doesn't just happen in the spring, garbage happens throughout the years. So an initiative like this is fantastic to end up having people be on the lookout to do more and to do those little bits. So in this past year, we had 1,250 people participate in the Cleaning Green, and hopefully a lot of those folks can somehow end up being engaged, and we can also broaden the pyramid of stewardship further out to have more people engaging in this sort of community stewardship. And just as certainly I think people have already highlighted it, but making sure that people do their best to where possible, take their garbage home, to be dealing with it there. But certainly if people are doing cleanups in around our parks, making sure that people know that you can put them in the parks garbage carts that are spread around the city, and that they can help us keep our city clean and beautiful. And so I'm very excited to see where this goes and to help spread this stewardship message. I think that's all I have to say. I'll yield my time.
Thank you so much, Dave. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about this growing issue, in case you haven't noticed on your own, if you're interested in actually taking action and taking it to the next level with Take2, I'm going to take you through our participant package so that you can see how Take2 works. Just give me 1 second while I share my screen. So over here, I'm pretty sure it should be sharing properly. Let me know if you're not seeing the participant package. So this is just a little bit about Take2 that I told you about earlier. Here is our how to get started. So the idea with Take2 is that you are, every time you're visiting a natural space or a watershed, that you're picking up 2 pieces of litter and taking them away with you. So in our first page here, all you have to do at first is pick up 2 pieces of litter, and then you take a photo of it. So we have attached to Take2 a very cool submission form where we're collecting data about the actual litter. So there's a QR code here that you can scan using your phone, or you can go using the link here. And then we have little detailed submission steps, but what I'm going to do is take you through how it actually works. So this QR code or this URL will take you here. So here is our main line. Every time you enjoy a trail, park, waterfront, or natural space, take a second look and take 2 pieces of waste away with you. Another aspect of Take2 is also encouraging people to use social media to join the Take2 movement. So you can take a photo of your 2 items, you can add them to your story or post them on social media using the hashtag Take2 Cleanup. Tag us in it as well. And then the idea is that then you nominate another 2 people to do the same. So this way, if we all make a little bit of a difference, we can actually have a much larger impact altogether. This is a little bit of information about our data. So the data we collect is useful in being able to identify what types of waste are in our watersheds and where they're coming from. This provides the ability to be able to hold brands accountable for the waste they are creating that is making its way into our trails, as well as being able to identify what the largest types of waste are present and give us insight into how they may be making their way into specific areas. So I will take you to the next page here. So once you are in the submission form, there is a teams option, and I'll talk a little bit about that more in depth later. But you can select your team here. So I'm going to select Water Watchers. Then you can either use this to locate exactly where you are or where you picked up the waste. So say you didn't do this until you got home. If you remember the trail that you were at or the general area you were at, you can type that address in. For me, it's just locating where I am currently. Then you're going to move on to select what you found. So we have a lot of different categories here, and this is all for data collection purposes. And Danny will talk a little more later about the importance of data collection. So I have a picture of a plastic bottle that was picked up. So I'm going to select plastic bottle. I know that the bottle is a Nestle bottle. So we have a few popular brands here. And then this is how many items. So if I picked up a couple bottles, I would write exactly how many. And then you have 2 options here. So you can choose to use your camera to take a photo using the submission form. So if you're already outside and picking up your 2 pieces of waste and you open the submission form, you can take a picture right here, or you can upload a photo that you already have. And you can do this on any device. So I'm going to select this picture here, and that's going to upload. Then the next part here is agreeing to make your submission public. So you can choose whether or not you want the data to show on our map, which I'll show you just after this. Or you can choose to have your submission kept off of our map. We'll still have the data information, but it just won't be on the public map. And then you can write any notes about where you found the litter, if there's anything interesting or any notes that you'd like to make. You can pop that in here, and then we'll click next. And then we're done. So the last page just reminds you you can take the photo that you use to submit to also post on social media and encourage other people to do the same so we can spread this movement. So I'm going to select submit here. And we're done. So that is how the submission process works. Then I'll just tell you a little bit about the data collection. So I'll just read this to you. The cleanup info you submit contributes to a larger body of data about the waste appearing in our watersheds. I told you a little bit here about us being able to hold brands accountable as well, which is why we have the brand selection. And all of our info and our data that we collect goes to a map, which is right here. Let's just get it to load. So once you've made your submission, wherever you geotag it, so whatever location that you put in the submission form, it's going to show as a little pin on this map. So you can see little pins in different areas here. We have even a collection that was done near Toronto. So you can zoom in and check out different areas, and you'll notice this number changes as I zoom in and out. So the pins represent what type of litter it was. So you can click the legend on the right here and it'll tell you what type of litter is there. And then you can also view right here by the type of litter and how much was found. So I can zoom out and see a fuller view of what was found. And then you can also view here the brand of litter and how many pieces were collected. And then in the top left, you can click here and there are also images attached to the submissions. And we'll just wait a second for that one to load. So here, as they're loading in, you can see different pieces of waste that folks have collected. And then if you click on that photo, it highlights the pin of where it was. It'll tell you what was collected and when it was collected as well. So that's the data collection portion and our impact map. I'll just quickly tell you a little bit about other things that we have to offer. So in Take2, we also have group options. So you saw in that first part of the submission form where you can click a team. We have different options for teams. So it's to encourage people to kind of have the feeling of that organized litter cleanup, but still being able to do it individually or in smaller, like COVID safe groups. And the idea is that you are tracking your group's collective impact. So if you're interested in having your group up there to select, you can either visit the website at take2cleanup.com/groups or email us at take2@waterwatchers.ca, and we can sign you up and add your group on there. And we'll be offering different things like competitions. So if you wanted to like have an internal competition in your organization, maybe you split into 2 teams and see who can collect the most, or if you just want to track your impact on your own, we can do that within our groups. And then I just wanted to mention our other resources. So one thing that we wanted to highlight was making sure that when you are on your Take2 journey, that you consider the environmental impact of how you choose to dispose your waste. So just keeping in mind to recycle, reuse, and compost whenever possible to try to minimize the amount of waste you create when you're going out to actually clean up. So that way you're not using extra waste while collecting your waste. And then we also have some safety resources here, and I will just quickly show those to you. So on our website, we have the Take2 and COVID-19 safety. So just some reminders on what the current requirements are for COVID safety and how to participate safely while you're outdoors. So we have some here. We also have a page on how to handle sharps and hazardous waste and what you can do in different areas to have those safely collected. And then the last page we have as well is some information about encountering possibly abandoned or active homeless encampments, or encountering places where people are living rough. It's just a reminder to remember that that could be someone's home, and while there may be litter in and around it, if you're not sure that it is abandoned, just to not remove any items from those particular areas. And we are currently working with organizations on the front line to develop an approach to cleaning up abandoned encampments in a humanitarian and respectful way. So that is my in-depth look at how Take2 works and the ways in which you can participate. I'm going to hand it over to Danny, who is our program manager, and she'll tell you a little bit more about the importance of data collection.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. I'm just going to get some slides up here to share with you as well. All right. Oops. All right, so as Siobhan said, I'm the program manager with the Water Watchers. My name is Danny, but I am also a social scientist by trade, and I worked in academia for a few years. So I'm really passionate about data and the ways that we can use them. For better or worse, we live in an increasingly data-driven world. And in 2017, The Economist published an article titled, "The World's Most Valuable Resource is No Longer Oil, but Data." And that momentum has really continued over time. And while we are a nonprofit and will not be making money off of the data from Take2, data does have a deeper value as well. It can tell the story of problems in the world and make the need for change clear through numbers, categorical information, showing trends over time, and more. So what does this mean? So what this means is that data and the stories that it tells can really be a vessel for change. And I want to give you a real world example of that data being a vessel for change and how data has been used in this way recently as well. So the federal government of Canada recently committed to phase out 6 different plastic items in October of 2020. And that was responding to the problem of plastic pollution in our watersheds across Canada, which is also reflected around the world. These 6 items were plastic checkout bags, straws, stir sticks, 6-pack rings, cutlery, and foodware that is made from hard to recycle plastics. But this ban on these 6 types of plastic did not happen just out of the goodness of the government's heart, but rather following the immense efforts of many, many organizations across Canada, including the Water Watchers. But I'd really like to highlight 2 other organizations that played a large role in this, and those are the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup and Environmental Defense. So the Shoreline Cleanup used their vast network of data on cleanups to gather evidence and visualize the shoreline pollution that was happening across Canada. And that's that top picture that you can see there, the data story maps. And in this case, it really, you can see that they have the 2020 Dirty Dozen is one of their initiatives for visualizing data, where it shows the top 12 items that were found in their shoreline cleanups to really illustrate that problem. And in this case, illustrating the problem of plastic pollution in the environment. And using that data, Environmental Defense was a leading organization using this data and other kinds of data sets that exist like it out there to advocate for policy action from the federal government, which is what led to the official phase out of those 6 plastic items. And I just want to read to one section of the October 2020 press release from the Government of Canada that announced the ban. It said, "A key part of the plan is a ban on harmful single-use plastic items where there is evidence that they are found in the environment, are often not recycled, and have readily available alternatives." So that's hearing it direct from the policymakers' mouths that evidence, this data, played a key role in their decision. So Take2 is just launching, so we're not quite at the level of the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup or having that really large body of data to draw on. But we have been really thoughtful in how we set up Take2 in order to maximize the power of the data that comes through the project. You've probably all heard someone say at some point, "I'm just one person," but we also all know when we band together, we can do some pretty amazing things. So we've made it easy to report what one person is doing through a small independent cleanup and coupled that with auto-generated visualizations so that the collective impact of Take2 can also be easily seen. Last but not least, we have made sure that the data that we're collecting also aligns with other cleanup initiatives. So that picture on the right there shows some of the category drop downs of the waste that you found. And we took inspiration from a bunch of the other cleanups that exist so that that data really is contributing to that larger collective impact as well, and can continue to contribute to advocacy efforts of the national NGOs and the local ones to grow Canada's sustainability. So in the context too of what can Take2 do, I mentioned that it's really just starting here, but the really big things that I want to talk about are just that top polluters can be identified, and someone put in the comments already that like, has anyone shown this to Tim Hortons or have you contacted anyone? And I'm glad that you said that because that's part of the goal, is to be able to identify organizations like Tim Hortons that are really being found in the environment quite often, and then to advocate for some different options to keep waste out of their keep their waste out of our environment and to stop it at the source. And one of the really cool things about that too is that the Watershed Impact Map of the Take2 cleanup shows different scales as well of identifying top polluters and the waste. So you could do that at the neighborhood scale, you could do it at a city scale, region, province, all the way up to the nation and potentially eventually the world. And it also provides that supporting evidence, as I said, for banning the substances that are making their way into our watersheds and polluting them. So that's our aspirations for Take2. And we're really looking forward to seeing the ways that the data can speak to creating that change that we want to see and confront these problems. Thanks.
Thank you, Danny. I love the way that your eyes light up when you talk about data. Okay, so we're going to move on to a Q&A portion. We have a few questions here, so I'll start with some of them. One is, can I still participate if I don't have social media? So I will answer this one. Some of the other questions will direct to some of our other speakers. So if you don't have social media, you definitely can still participate in Take2. The ways in which you can do that is still taking the 2 photos and using the submission form. And then you just wouldn't do the extra step of nominating 2 friends, but you could do something like text 2 people and let them know, or send them an email and let them know. But you definitely don't have to have social media to be involved. I have a question for John. How do you think this initiative will impact Guelph trails?
Well, I'm hoping that that they'll be a lot cleaner, and we'll all enjoy them better. Yeah, I mean, that's what I hope. I am interested in some of the other bigger issues. I think we need to be, and I understand the sensitivity about the encampments and stuff, but it's important that that is tackled at the same time, that we figure out how to tackle that at the same time. Bit hard to convince people to go along and pick up Tim Hortons cup on the right-hand side and then look on the left-hand side and see a pile of garbage from an abandoned encampment. So you really do need to work that solution out, I believe. There are a couple of other things I think that this could provoke, good things. There's a couple of places in the city where they're kind of neglected. And again, the answer isn't for us to call the police or call the compliance, is to make sure that there are facilities there for people to deal with garbage and so on. Like we deal with it in parks. We put, we've got places for people to sit in parks. We've got places for people to put their garbage in parks. I'm thinking specifically about behind Wellington Plaza, which is notoriously left alone, and all the garbage that goes there goes into the river. So it's a huge, for me, it's a huge highlight. I walk it every single day. And it's distressing, to be quite honest. And I figured out, I've tried to go through in my own mind about how do we deal with this. And then I realized that we're not supporting the people that use that area. And we need to support them. And it's a policy decision, actually. It's a city policy decision about, because it's difficult to, if you put a garbage can down there, someone's got to go fetch it. It's a long way to walk all the way back to the road. So these are not, there's reasons why it hasn't been done. But the downside is that all that garbage gets piled up there and blows into the river and goes all, and then we're all looking at it. It's just terrible. I invite any of you to walk down that trail right now, which is between the covered bridge and Wyndham Street, and tell me how you feel. You'll feel shitty. You'll feel shitty. We should do something.
I really appreciate you raising that too, John. So I'm just going to jump in here with an answer also, and just say that I think that that's like a really good way that we can use data that's generated from Take2 to then be able to work with service providers to say, look, like this area is really polluted, like we're picking up all this waste, and still like we can go back there and see that there's more, and then we can use that then for contributing to that solution. So I really appreciate you contextualizing that in that way. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, John. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question. I'm going to do, this one is for Jeremy. Jeremy, how can you see this project growing?
Finding my unmute button there. I'm really hoping that we can kind of reach out to a variety of organizations. Sort of like John's organization, like the Guelph Hiking Trail Club and the city, but start to expand to the groups like the fishing clubs, fishing organizations, outdoors clubs, schools, and that slowly kind of build this out. Through organizations within our own community, but then also beyond. And I know that there are all sorts of people who are sort of active on social media, who I'm hoping to reach out to, who are doing outdoors things all over the country and all over the world. And I'd like to basically start to sort of build a network of people who are sharing this idea and spreading it out themselves. So I don't know. I think it could go a long way if people are keen and people participate and kind of share with their own contacts.
Thank you, Jeremy. I hope so too. And that actually leads me to another question about the project growing. This one's from the comments. Heike's asking if the submission will work for locations around Georgian Bay. As far as I'm aware, it does work all the way up there as well. And while our project is focusing on the Aramasa and Speed rivers, we want this to spread. We would love for folks all over to continue the litter cleanup and to encourage people all over to deal with the waste that is in our watersheds. Nora asks, has anyone ever contacted Tim Hortons? There are an awful lot of cups at the Yorklands. I don't know, has anyone? Any of our speakers? I know that it's something that we are collecting data to hopefully use, but has that happened?
I'm not aware of it happening personally. I know that there are in some places have contacted store owners, like for example, the Canadian Tire up on Woodlawn, for example, for the waste that kind of from their store that makes its way into the wetland right behind their store. But it's been sort of very specific, kind of local, but yeah, very like local impacts. But I'm not aware of Tim Hortons being contacted, at least not yet. But kind of to Danny's point, once there's data, that will actually really kind of make us a stronger story in terms of approaching Tim Hortons or others about what kind of waste is being found.
I agree, for sure. Let's collect all the data, go out and get all the Tim Hortons cups, all the Nestle bottles. Let's collect the data. Thank you, Jeremy. Another question is, how can schools engage with this project? Danny, do you want to hop on in this one with me?
Sure.
Yeah. So for sure, our groups option is something that we're thinking about gearing towards schools once school is back in session. Did you want to speak more about that, Danny?
Sure. I think that the vision of Take2 from the data side of things too, that we can organize groups and track group data is a wonderful motivation to be able to reach out to classrooms and schools and say, like, join in, make this a project of your class. We have some information about like how to participate safely, and also like some speaking opportunities for engaging with schools and youth. But yeah, I think it's really just that I'm personally a very competitive person, so I love the idea also of being able to bring in that data perspective of the fun of competition and seeing like who can create the most impact. But everyone's a winner because it's all contributing towards that collective impact. So yeah, we're coming for you, schools, in September.
Thank you, Danny. Another question for you. So I understand that this is a pilot project. What is the bigger aim after the pilot?
That's a great question. I mean, we're starting small. Like, we've decided to make our piece of the pie small, specifically because we want to make it successful. We want to work out kind of the bugs of the systems, the processes, making it accessible to people, and do all that, and also to be able to bring it locally to the places that we love and want to protect, and have that sense of place for. But that is not a unique thing. Everyone has that sense of connection to place somewhere, and especially with water, it's this kind of universal entry point to be able to say that humans depend on the environment. We need water for almost everything that we do, and definitely to survive. So it's this beautiful entry point, I think, also that we'll be able to start growing the regional scope of where we're focusing our like promotion and partner efforts. But then to watch it also just grow organically as people share it with their friends. And my prediction is that that's actually going to happen very quickly, that it's going to grow in that way. But hopefully it's done in such a way that is really being able to contribute then to this larger vision of visualizing the impacts, visualizing the collective impact, and then moving that into accountability for brands on a larger scope, and also advocacy for policy change that will make this problem smaller at very least.
Thank you, Danny. I'm super excited as well, and I'm can't wait for more people to join and for us to strengthen this part of Take2 and have it spread further. I have another question for Dave. If you possibly wanted to respond about how the city could use the data that we're collecting to do things like influence policy, as we were talking about before, and know things like where to place more waste cans and other things that the city could do with the data.
Well, I think there's a few potential options. As the data comes in, certainly could be sharing that with the solid waste folks, and seeing what is on the recycling component. Certainly could see this being a potential for us to consider where we might change the way in which we deploy our garbage carts. But alternatively, in places like the plaza, to end up having there be pressure on the plaza writ large to essentially deal with the garbage itself. They have their own dumpsters, they have staff that are there, and to find solutions there that where the garbage is coming from those businesses. So I think this could inform some things with the city, but I think it's going to end up being great for empowering citizens and NGO world to be able to look for creative solutions and to bring things to bear on the producers, as opposed to we're kind of a downstream solution. So it best to try and deal with this at the source.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any other questions? If you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat.
And if there are any other questions that come up, like you can also always reach out to us at take2@waterwatchers.ca for any other information there that that you'd like to get in touch about, or questions that you have.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, so since it doesn't seem like there's any other questions at the moment, I would like to hand it over to Danny.
Thank you, Siobhan. So I just want to wrap us up by highlighting a couple ways that you can get involved with Take2. Of course, you can log a Take2 cleanup. That's where it all starts. And after that, you can share on social media if you are a social media user. One of the big ways that we're hoping to engage people through the Take2 project is through registering a team. So register a team, get your workplace on board, challenge your coworkers, maybe your larger family group you'd like to start a team for. So you can do that on our website or by emailing us. And last but not least, you can join our mailing list. We'll have some different updates from things as the initiative progresses, and as we announce some different ways that we've come up with to make Take2 even more fun. And then also, we've mentioned that Take2 is a pilot project. It right now is funded through January 2022. So we are looking for sponsors. We can't announce our actual event or our actual pilot project sponsor quite yet because their announcement hasn't come out. But you can get some more information about the two different kinds of sponsorships, which are for local sponsors and project sponsors, by emailing us at take2@waterwatchers.ca, and either Siobhan or I will get back to you around that. And back over to you, Siobhan.
Thank you, Danny. So this concludes our event, and I would just like to thank all of our speakers and supporters, Shared Value Solutions, the Guelph Hiking Trail Club, and the City of Guelph, as well as another thank you to our Two Rivers Festival sponsors, Mike Schreiner, CFRU, and Mickey Shepard. Thank you so much for attending to learn more about Take2. After this event, we will send you all a copy of the participant package so that you can also get started and help keep our watersheds clean and beautiful. Thank you all.